Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Mailbag. Bit of a different video for you today. Basically around a month to 5 weeks ago, I made a post on our Instagram account asking for advice on how to deal with tennis elbow. I was suffering from picking up my camera, picking up coffee beans, turning door handles, changing bike tires, you name it. It stemmed from excessive amounts of bike riding and had made a whole bunch of things in my life very uncomfortable. So at that time, working on the computer with my arms, either typing at this angle or mousing, in that moment, I thought, well, maybe somebody in our photography community might have dealt with a similar thing from lifting the camera and might have some great advice for me. As it turns out, a whole bunch of people had gone through this or were going through it. And also a bunch of people wanted me to share the advice I got. So this video is going to share all that advice. Basically what I have here are techniques and bits of advice that I found to be the most effective. So I'm going to run through those now with you, and hopefully they can help if you are experiencing tennis elbow. The first thing is the massage gun. I own a massage gun already, so it's something I was already using, but I hadn't been using it so much on the elbow. The reason for that was because the elbow is a joint and massaging the elbow just seemed a little weird. But as I would later learn, it's more about massaging below the elbow and maybe a little bit above the elbow. So I still use this once in a while, not as much as some of the other items I'll talk about. I find that the massage gun is more a temporary relief type tool rather than something that's actually curing or making the situation better in the long run. Another thing that was highly recommended was stretchy bands, these kind of medical recovery bands. I don't have any here. I have used them in the past and I haven't used any in this recovery process, but I did buy this, which is called the TheraBand. This is a little different than what I think most people were recommending, but I have found this to be quite effective. Basically, it's just a little exercise device. You can use it in many different ways. The one thing about this is I do find it's effective if I have a pain in my forearm, let's say, that's kind of dense and in one location. This kind of seems to smooth it out over a broader area, reducing the pain. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but it kind of dilutes it and spreads it out. Just generally makes my arm more comfortable. I should also highlight that the pain started in my elbow, but it eventually progressed down to my wrist and then up to my forearm. And even now, it's starting to go into this forearm and wrist. Not so much in this elbow though. I'm also dealing with another knee injury at the time, which I'll speak a little bit about after. So I've been using all of these tools to deal with my knee, the forearm, the wrist, and the elbow. Another thing that was highly recommended was a compression brace. There's many specific braces towards tennis elbow. One's a little more technical and I guess fancier than the one I have here. I did have a simpler one before. I found it very uncomfortable. It was basically just the tensor band at about maybe 10 to 15 centimeters high. This slides on here, and then you have the ability to add a little more pressure below the elbow. I put about 10% extra pressure through this band here. What I found was adding more than that was very uncomfortable throughout the day. The one thing I don't like about this is really only a solution for me when I'm doing an activity. During the day, if I'm working or just living life, this isn't something that is going to be providing me any help, but it is great when I'm doing something like snowboarding or shoveling the driveway. It's winter right now, so we're dealing with a lot of snow. So this still does come in handy quite a bit. Now, another thing that was recommended, this was from my mother actually, and she suggested Ruta Gravlion homeopathic type of medicine. I couldn't find it in a pill form. It turns out I was looking for the wrong thing, but what I did find while I was looking was Bryonia melt-away pellets. They're for pain relief, joint pain, muscle aches, and arthritis pain. Basically, you take 5 of these little things at once. They just kind of melt away under your tongue, and you're recommended to take these 3 times a day. I also have anti-inflammatories, which the doctor recommended. These are not prescription. I ran through my prescription, and honestly, the prescription seemed stronger than I needed, or at least wanted. The doctor had recommended I take the anti-inflammatories basically until the pain went away, which from my research was going to be a couple of months to a year. So I didn't think it was a great idea to be doing anti-inflammatories that long. So I looked for a milder one, but also picking up the homeopathic pain relief, I think is just a better way to deal with it. And honestly, it just seems like a lighter version of the anti-inflammatory. So after speaking with my mother again, it turns out she was referring to actual ruta graveolens patches, which are these. There's different forms out there. These are a Chinese herbal plaster, they say, strong feeling and quickly relieve knee pain. Generally, I'm wearing these before I go out and do an activity. If it's gonna be a big day in the mountains, I will put them on my forearms to help alleviate any pain that might come through here. I would like to put them on my wrists in the mountain, but unfortunately, I take my gloves off and on a lot, and the peeling of the sticky side causes its own discomfort. It eventually just peels off and just kind of wastes them. So these have been nice and effective. Again, they are knee patches. They're designed for the knee, and I'm actually dealing with a knee problem right now too, so I definitely use these on my knees as well. Another recommendation was physio-based stretching. Whether going to the physiotherapist myself, looking it up online, or some people actually sent me stretches. You know, stretching is something I do often already. I'm not so young anymore. I do a lot of activities, so I'm constantly trying to make my body feel a little bit better. I don't necessarily block out time to stretch, but more take advantage of opportunities I have to stretch, whether it's in lift lines, in my car waiting to pick up my son, or just any moment that I can stretch out troubled areas of my body. I definitely looked up some specific stretches for tennis elbow, you know, repetitions of this type of stretch. You should look this up. Don't take my personal advice on it. I'm just a bag designer. So look these types of stretches up. But what I found is, you know, the stretch basically involves this type of space requirement, so you can get away with doing these in many different places. Next is rest, ice, and anti-inflammatories. The rest part, I get it, but also I don't get it because it's my elbow. I'm not really sure how to rest my elbow. Obviously, don't sign up for an arm wrestling tournament, but life is life and I need my elbow. While I avoid anything too intense, there's tons of stuff that I still have to do that is quite painful on the arm. Maybe we have to remove snow from the roof of our shed. Maybe it's cleaning the cars off of a heavy snowfall, pushing around our snow removal machine. There's a lot of stuff, you know, carrying groceries. There's a lot of stuff in life where that elbow is needed. So pretty hard to rest. But I will say that icing it is something I have been doing every day. Before I made the post, I kind of forgot to keep on icing it. Fortunately, I was reminded to keep icing it, and that's definitely something I do every day, which is quite handy for bringing swelling down and just reducing pain. The anti-inflammatories, I spoke a bit about those. You know, I still use these, but I try not to eat too many of these. One other thing that caught me off guard was the Electro shockwave therapy. This is something I've done when I've actually gone to physio in the past, but I had no idea these home kits existed. Just quickly show you. You know, you're gonna put the patches on. You'll kind of want to put it in an orientation where the positive connects with the negative, cross like this and like this. And then you'll plug it into the device and slowly pick up the power, and you'll feel it pulsating through, just kind of giving you a nice electro shockwave massage, I guess you'd call it. Not 100% sure. I will say with this, the power can get pretty high, so definitely read the instructions. definitely take it slowly and do your own research on these, but I have found this to be quite effective. Now, the last thing I was recommended was targeted exercise, and that was definitely the most common recommendation. I definitely get my exercise in. Picked up this for a little lightweight exercise. I do have some exercise balls at home that are great for building a little strength in my forearm. So I think I have that part covered already. But if you don't, definitely take note that that was the most common recommendation from our audience. Now, one thing that wasn't recommended through the Instagram post, and I found it to be the best treatment, was from a YouTube channel called the two most famous physical therapists. A couple of quirky physical therapists. Basically, their technique involves a butter knife. We're gonna pretend this is a butter knife. A little bit of lubrication, oil, or cream. This one's almost empty, but you basically just wanna put it on your forearm, take a paper towel, cover the blade end, and then you just wanna massage downward the tendons and your forearm, just like this. They say you wanna kind of drift a bit outward, and you only need to do this for 3 minutes a day. Now, I've been pretty good about this, probably missed average of 1 day every couple of weeks since I found out about this. And again, it's only 3 minutes a day, and I found it to be really effective. When you're done, just do a quick cleanup. Use that same paper towel, clean your arm off, and you're good to go. About a month ago, when I first developed this, there is no way I could pick up this camera and do this. I would be throbbing in absolute pain. Since employing these techniques, the pain is very minimal. I would almost say no pain. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm gonna give it a 1. And about a month ago, that would have been an 11. Now, daily, I've developed a ritual, and I'm gonna share that with you. Basically, if I have a day that's gonna involve some physical activities, I'm big on snowboarding. I like jumping my snowboarding, which means I have to land on my knees a lot, and my knees are suffering this year. So I will put the Ruta patches on my knee in the morning, and I'll also put them on my forearms and on my elbow. Again, if it's gonna be a big day, I will take an anti-inflammatory. If it's gonna be a quiet day, I'll probably skip the patches and I will just stick to the Briona Homeopathic. Again, they're lighter and they do the job on days that I'm not physically active. When the day is done and my house settles down, the kids off to bed, I have time for some self-treatment. I have a bit of a process, and I start with icing my knee. And at the same time my knee is icing, I will do the butter knife treatment. The ice stays on for 15 to 30 minutes. Butter treatment's quite quick. I put a knee brace over the ice, and that keeps it in place on my knee. But once that time's up, I will shift the brace and the ice to my elbow. And then I will put the TENS unit on my knee and then do that for 15 to 30 minutes. And then when that time expires, I will shift the ice down, and then the TENS unit moves up to my elbow. And then eventually the ice is gone and the TENS unit goes down to my wrist. If this arm is feeling bad, I might do it on this wrist too. So it's a pretty nice, consistent routine. It takes about an hour all in. And if it's gonna be a big day in the backcountry or something like that, I know I got a lot of activity the next day, I'll put these patches on before I go to sleep, and then I'll reapply new ones in the morning before I head out. I know there's a lot of stuff to digest here. Everything has a price, of course. If we were just gonna start at the lowest cost option, I would definitely start with the butter knife technique, the cheapest, and from what I found, the most effective. From there, I think the anti-inflammatories are a given, but also if you can find these online, these homeopathic version, in my opinion, I would rather be digesting these than those. And icing, another given. I find that using an actual ice pack works a lot better than a frozen bag of vegetables. Only took me 50 years to figure that out. All the other stuff gets a little more in-depth and expensive, but do your own research, figure out what's good for your own situation and budget. And hopefully you can get rid of that pain. I'm probably out of 10, I'm probably at about 2 for overall pain. I really feel like I was at 9 and 10 about a month ago. So all of this stuff has really helped me bring that down, manage it, and deal with it. Overall, it's probably made me a much happier person, getting rid of most of that pain. So that's it for this one. We'll see you next time on the mailbag. Take care.